Hello, my friend. My name is Helen. Today, I want to share with you something that changed my life forever, a journey that took me beyond the limits of this world, beyond the boundaries of life and death itself. There are moments in life that shake us to our core, moments that force us to question everything we once believed. Some come like a gentle whisper in the wind, subtle yet profound. Others crash upon us like a tidal wave, leaving us breathless, struggling to grasp the weight of their meaning. I experienced one such moment. It was not just an event, it was a revelation. I died. Or at least, I came as close to death as one could without crossing entirely to the other side. And in that fleeting yet eternal moment, I saw things I could never have imagined. I felt the fabric of existence unravel before me, revealing truths hidden from the eyes of the living. It was a place beyond time, beyond space, beyond fear. It was a place of unimaginable love, unspeakable beauty, and undeniable purpose. What I experienced changed everything. It was as if the veil between the seen and the unseen had been lifted, revealing the intricate tapestry that connects all things, the divine hand of God weaving through every moment, every life, every soul. This is not just my story. It is a message. A message of hope, of purpose, of the eternal love that surrounds us even when we cannot see it. If you have ever questioned your existence, if you have ever longed for something greater, if you have ever felt a whisper deep in your soul calling you to seek the truth, then listen closely. What I am about to share may change your life the way it changed mine. For in the moment between life and death, I discovered something far more powerful than either. And now, I must tell you everything. It started as an ordinary day, the kind that blends into the rest of life without leaving a mark. I was on my way home from work, exhausted but dismissing the fatigue as nothing serious. I had no warning of what was to come. One moment, I was gripping the steering wheel, and the next, a sharp pain exploded in my chest. My vision blurred, my hands went numb, and before I could react, my car veered off the road. Then, darkness. Silence. Stillness. But I was still aware. I opened my eyes, yet I was no longer inside my car. I was above it, floating weightlessly in the air. Below me, I saw the wreckage, my crumpled car, the shattered glass glistening under the flickering streetlights. I saw myself, slumped over the steering wheel, motionless. Paramedics rushed toward me, voices filled with urgency. Strangers gathered at a distance, some whispering prayers, others frozen in horror. My phone, which had been resting on the passenger seat, was now vibrating endlessly, my family, my friends, all unaware that in this moment, I was no longer bound to the physical world. Yet, despite the chaos, I felt no fear. Instead, there was peace, pure, boundless, indescribable. It washed over me like a warm tide, stripping away the weight of the world, the burdens I had carried, the worries that had once consumed me. It was as if I had been freed, no longer tethered to the pain and struggles of earthly existence. Then, I saw the light. At first, it was a distant glow, not harsh or blinding, but soft, radiant, and alive. It pulsed with an energy beyond words, drawing me toward it with a force both gentle and irresistible. The closer I drifted, the more I felt something profound stirring within me, an awareness, an understanding, as if I were on the threshold of something greater than I had ever known. And then, the tunnel appeared. The tunnel of truth. The light was at the far end, waiting. It wasn't just a glow, it was a presence, something infinite, something that had always been there, even when I hadn't realized it. I felt no hesitation, no doubt. I let go, allowing myself to be drawn forward like a leaf carried by the wind. As I moved, something extraordinary happened. I began to see my life, every moment, unfolding before me like scenes from a film. But it was more than just memories, it was truth laid bare. I saw the moments of kindness, the times I had chosen love over anger, compassion over judgment. But I also saw the times I had turned away from someone in need, the moments when fear, selfishness, or pride had guided my decisions instead of love. And I felt everything. Not in the way I had on earth, where emotions were fleeting or dulled by distractions, but in a raw, undeniable way. When I had caused joy, I felt the fullness of that joy, not just in myself, but in others. When I had caused pain, I felt that pain, not as guilt or condemnation, but as understanding. It was as if the veil had been lifted, and I was seeing the ripple effects of my existence, the good and the bad, the love and the loss. Then, I saw them. At the end of the tunnel, figures stood waiting. Familiar faces. My grandmother, who had passed when I was a child, smiled at me, her eyes filled with warmth. My uncle, the one who had always protected me, stood beside her. Others, some I recognized, some I did not, watched me with a love so deep it made my soul ache. And then, he appeared. A figure clothed in light, neither male or female yet radiating both strength and gentleness. His presence filled the entire space, and though I had never seen him before, I knew him. Every part of my being recognized him. "It is not your time." The voice was not a sound, it was a knowing, a truth imprinted onto my soul. I wanted to stay. I wanted to step forward, to feel the fullness of this love forever. But before I could take another step, the light began to fade. The tunnel blurred, the warmth receded. I felt myself being pulled back toward the cold, toward the broken body in the wreckage below. And then, pain. A gasp of air. A crushing weight in my chest. The sound of sirens, of voices shouting. I was back. Awakening to a new life. I woke up in a hospital bed, the beeping of machines filling the silence. My body ached, my mind felt heavy, but my heart, my soul, was different. I had been somewhere else. For days, I barely spoke. I lay in bed, replaying the experience over and over. Was it real? Had I imagined it? But no, deep inside, I knew. It was more real than anything I had ever known. And then, the questions came. Why had I been sent back? What was my purpose? What was I meant to do with this second chance? Before the accident, I had lived my life without much thought about the deeper meaning of existence. I had gone to church occasionally, prayed when I needed something, but my faith had been distant, more habit than conviction. But now, I knew that life was so much more than what we see. I knew that every action, every choice, every moment mattered. That love, the kind of love I had felt in that tunnel, was the very foundation of everything. I couldn't go back to living the way I had before. I started seeking answers, diving deeper into my faith, searching for the meaning behind what I had experienced. And as I did, something inside me changed. I no longer feared death. I no longer saw life as a series of meaningless events. Instead, I saw it as a journey, one filled with purpose, one where every act of kindness, every moment of love, was a thread woven into a tapestry far greater than myself. And that's why I'm telling you this story. Because I was given a gift, a glimpse beyond the veil, a truth I can't keep to myself. And if you're reading this, then maybe, just maybe, this message is meant for you. Maybe this is your sign. Maybe you've been searching, questioning, wondering if there's more to life than the everyday struggles, the mundane routines. I'm here to tell you, there is. There is so much more. And if you listen, truly listen, you might just start to see it, too. Because the day everything changed for me, might be the day everything changes for you, too. At first, it was just a distant glow, gentle, warm, inviting. It was not blinding like the sun, nor cold like the pale light of the moon. It pulsed with life, radiating a love so deep it felt like it had always been a part of me, waiting for this moment to be fully recognized. The more I focused on the light, the stronger its pull became. It was not forceful, yet it was irresistible, as if every fiber of my being was meant to move toward it. I did not resist. I surrendered. I drifted forward effortlessly, like a leaf caught in a current, weightless and free. The world I had known, my broken body, the flashing lights, the cries of paramedics, faded into nothingness. There was only this path ahead, this journey into the unknown. Then, something strange happened. I began to feel something shifting inside me. It was subtle at first, like a gentle breeze brushing away dust. But as I moved forward, I felt layers of myself, layers I hadn't even known existed, beginning to peel away. My fears, my doubts, my regrets, all of them, one by one, were stripped away, as though they were never truly a part of me to begin with. And then came the memories. Not just flashes of my past, but moments that mattered. I saw my childhood, the joy of laughter, the warmth of my mother's embrace. I saw my teenage years, the struggles, the victories, the silent battles fought within myself. Then came the defining choices of my life, the crossroads where I had chosen love over anger, kindness over cruelty. I felt the joy of those choices, the ripples they had created in the world, the unseen ways they had touched others. But it didn't stop there. I saw the other choices too, the times I had turned away from someone in need, the moments when fear or pride had dictated my actions instead of love. I felt the weight of those choices, not as punishment, but as understanding. I saw the chain reactions they had caused, the opportunities for goodness that I had missed. It was not condemnation, it was truth. And that's when I understood. The tunnel was not just a passage. It was a revelation. It was a mirror reflecting the true impact of my existence, the beauty and the brokenness, the love and the lost chances, the whispers of kindness and the echoes of neglect. Everything was laid bare, not to judge me, but to teach me. At the end of the tunnel, a figure stood waiting. I couldn't see their face clearly at first, but I felt their presence before I even reached them. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced, a presence that radiated wisdom, power, and an overwhelming sense of love. A love deeper than anything I had ever known, a love that felt as though it had been with me my entire life, even in the moments I had felt most alone. As I drifted closer, the figure became clearer. Clothed in radiant light, they were neither male nor female, yet they felt familiar, like an old friend, a protector, a guide. I could feel their gaze penetrating beyond my physical form, seeing not just who I had been, but who I was meant to be. And then, they spoke. Their voice was unlike anything I had ever heard, not in words, but in understanding. It resonated within me, as though it had been etched into my soul before I was even born. You are loved. Just 3 words. But in that moment, they carried the weight of the universe. I wanted to speak, to ask where I was, to understand what was happening. But before I could, the figure raised a hand, not yet. There was more to see. More to understand. And so, I stood before them, waiting. Because I knew, whatever came next would change everything. I knew him before I even saw his face. His presence was unlike anything I had ever known, strong yet gentle, powerful yet filled with tenderness. The very air around him shimmered with a light that was not just seen but felt, like the warmth of the sun after a long night. It was a love so pure, so consuming, that it overwhelmed me, bringing tears to my eyes before a single word was spoken. He did not need to introduce himself. I knew. It was as if my soul had always known him, had been waiting for this moment. Though I had never stood before him in this way before, there was a familiarity, a deep recognition that defied earthly understanding. This was not the distant, abstract Jesus I had read about or seen in paintings. This was him, alive, present, more real than anything I had ever encountered. For a moment, he simply gazed at me, his eyes filled with compassion. And in that gaze, I saw everything. I saw that he knew me. Not just the version of me that I presented to the world, but the deepest parts of me, my fears, my doubts, my regrets. He knew the moments I had cried alone, the silent prayers I had whispered in desperation, the times I had wondered if I was truly loved. And yet, his gaze did not hold judgment. Only love. Only understanding. Then, he extended his hands toward me, and I saw them, marks, not of pain, but of purpose. The wounds in his hands were not signs of suffering but of victory. They radiated light, pulsing with an energy that spoke of redemption, sacrifice, and the deepest kind of love. I felt a strange warmth in my own hands. A tingling sensation spread through my fingers and into my palms, as though something unseen was awakening within me. I looked down, and to my astonishment, I saw a faint glow forming beneath my skin. The letter M was traced upon my palms. A soft gasp escaped my lips. I had never noticed it before, not like this. But as I looked closer, I realized that it had always been there, hidden in the lines of my hands, waiting to be revealed. Jesus smiled, his voice rich with a wisdom that transcended time itself. "You have always carried this mark," he said. "It is a sign of your purpose, a reminder that you were created with intention and love." His words sent a shiver through me, not of fear, but of revelation. Purpose. The word echoed through my being. Had I spent my life searching for meaning, not realizing that the answer had been imprinted upon me all along? Jesus took a step closer, and as he did, the space around us shifted. The tunnel, the light, the vast expanse of eternity, it all faded into the background, as if the only thing that mattered in this moment was this conversation, this divine encounter. "You are not here by accident," he continued. "None of you are. Every life, every soul, is woven into a greater design. The moments you have lived, the choices you have made, they have all led you here. And now, you must decide." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. Decide? I didn't have to speak the question aloud. He already knew. He reached forward and gently placed his hands over mine. The warmth intensified, flooding my body, filling me with something beyond words. It was as if every broken piece of me, every doubt, every wound, every part of me that had ever felt lost, was being made whole. "You have been given a gift, a glimpse beyond the veil, a vision of what is true," Jesus said. "But you cannot stay." The words sent a sharp ache through my soul. "But I don't want to leave," I wanted to say. Here, in his presence, there was no pain, no sorrow, no fear, only perfect love. How could I return to the brokenness of the world after experiencing something so complete? Jesus' eyes softened, as if he understood my struggle. "Your time is not yet finished," he said. "There is more for you to do. More for you to share." I opened my mouth to speak, to ask why, to plead to stay. But before I could, he lifted his hand and gently touched my forehead. A flood of images filled my mind, visions of people, places, moments yet to come. I saw myself speaking, sharing my story. I saw faces illuminated with hope, tears falling not from sorrow but from healing. I saw people awakening to the truth, stepping into their own purpose, realizing that they, too, were loved beyond measure. And then, I understood. This experience was not just for me. It was a message. A calling. A mission. Jesus took a step back, his expression filled with love, but also a quiet expectation. "Go back, Helen," he said. "Live with purpose. Love without fear. Tell them what you have seen." I felt something pulling me, drawing me away from the warmth of his presence, back toward the physical world. My heart cried out, wanting to stay, but at the same time, a deep knowing settled in my soul. I had to go back. Because someone needed to hear this. Because someone out there, maybe even you, had been waiting for this very message. Back to life. I gasped, my lungs burning as I was thrust back into my body. The beeping of hospital machines filled my ears. My vision swam, my hands trembled, but I was alive. And I was changed. The doctors called it a miracle. They said I had been clinically dead for minutes, that I shouldn't have survived, let alone returned with such clarity. But I knew the truth. I had met Jesus. I had seen what lay beyond. And I had been sent back for a reason. From that moment on, I was no longer the same. My fears, my doubts, the meaningless worries that had once consumed me, they no longer held power over me. I had seen the truth, and now, I had a mission. To live with purpose. To love without fear. To share this message with the world. Because if there is one thing I now know beyond all doubt, it is this. We are loved. We are seen. We are created with intention. And we are never, never alone. For years, I had noticed the shape on my hands but dismissed it as nothing more than a natural crease in my skin, a meaningless feature that held no special importance. But now, standing before Jesus, bathed in his light, I understood. It was never random. It had always been a message. A calling. A divine imprint placed upon me before I even knew who I was meant to be. Jesus' gaze never wavered as he spoke, his voice carrying a weight of truth that resonated deep within my soul. This mark is not random, he said. It represents mission, mercy, and manifestation. The words vibrated through me, as if they were being etched into my very being. Mission. Mercy. Manifestation. Each word carried a power beyond language, a meaning that felt larger than myself. Jesus continued, his voice filled with both kindness and authority. Those who bear this mark feel a deep sense of responsibility, even if they do not understand why. From the moment they enter the world, their spirit is drawn toward service, toward healing, toward guidance. This is not a burden, it is a gift. It is a sign that they have been chosen to carry out divine work. A lump formed in my throat. Hadn't I always felt that pull? Even as a child, I had sensed it, a longing to help others, an ache when I saw suffering, an instinct to comfort those in pain. I had always felt as though there was something I was supposed to do, though I could never quite grasp what it was. And yet, I had also ignored it. I had doubted. I had hesitated. I had allowed fear to convince me that I was too small, too unworthy, too ordinary to make a difference. Jesus' eyes softened, as if he knew the weight of my thoughts before I even spoke them. You have felt this pull, haven't you? I nodded, tears welling in my eyes. Yes. My voice was barely above a whisper. But I was afraid. I thought I wasn't enough. Jesus smiled gently, the light around him shimmering. You were never meant to carry this alone. He stepped closer, lifting his hands, and as he did, the air around us seemed to shift. The weight of time, the weight of uncertainty, everything that had once clouded my mind, it all faded away. This mark does not make you special because of what you can do, he continued. It is special because of what God will do through you. You are not the source of the power, you are the vessel. The more you surrender to the mission, the more you will see miracles unfold. I looked down at my hands again. The faint glow of the M still lingered, but now, it pulsed with something more, a sense of purpose. Mission. The call to serve, to bring light into the darkness, to be a messenger of hope. Mercy. A reminder of God's endless grace, and the command to extend that same compassion to others, even when it is difficult. Manifestation. The ability to bring divine love into the world through faith and action, to make the unseen visible through the way I live my life. The meaning was so clear now, so undeniable. I had spent my life searching for purpose, and all along, it had been written in my very skin. A new calling. Jesus looked at me with a quiet expectation. Now that you understand, what will you do with this knowledge? His question was simple, but the weight of it was immeasurable. Because this was not just about me. This was a choice. A calling. An invitation. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. For the first time, I did not feel doubt. I did not feel fear. I felt ready. I will go, I said, my voice clear. I will do whatever you ask of me. Jesus' smile widened, and in that moment, I felt something shift in the universe, like a door had been opened, a path cleared. Then go, he said. Live with purpose. Walk in faith. And remember, you are never alone. The light around me brightened, consuming everything in a flood of warmth and peace. My vision blurred, and before I could grasp what was happening, I felt myself being pulled, drawn backward, away from the divine realm, back toward the world I had left behind. Back to the world, forever changed. I gasped as I jolted awake, the sterile scent of the hospital filling my lungs. My chest rose and fell rapidly, my heart pounding as if it had just been restarted. The beeping of the monitors echoed in the background, a nurse rushing to my side. I was back. I was alive. Tears streamed down my face, not from pain, but from the sheer enormity of what had just happened. I had been there. I had seen him. I had heard his voice. And I had been given a mission. In the weeks that followed, I found myself unable to see the world the same way. Every face I passed on the street, every stranger I encountered, I saw them differently now. I saw them as souls, each carrying their own burdens, each searching for something greater, even if they didn't realize it. And I knew I had a responsibility to share what I had seen. I began telling my story, first to my family, then to friends, then to anyone who would listen. At first, there was hesitation. Would they believe me? Would they think I was imagining things? But then something amazing happened. People listened. Some wept as they heard my words, as if they had been waiting for someone to say what they had always felt deep inside. Others shared their own experiences, dreams, visions, moments when they had felt something divine calling them, guiding them. And that's when I realized, I was not alone. There were many who carried the mark. Some had seen it on their hands, just as I had. Others had never noticed, but when they looked closely, they found it, a quiet reminder that they, too, had been chosen for something greater. I was not just meant to carry this truth. I was meant to awaken others to it. A life of purpose. From that moment on, I stopped questioning my worth. I stopped doubting whether I was enough. I knew I was here for a reason. To be a light in the darkness. To bring mercy to those who needed it most. To manifest God's love in a world that was desperate for it. And so, I walked forward, into the unknown, into the mission, into the life I was always meant to live. Because this mark was never just a symbol. It was a calling. And now, I would answer it. Jesus then led me beyond the tunnel into a realm so breathtaking that words fail to capture it. The very air around me shimmered, not with light as I knew it, but with something deeper, something alive. It carried a melody, a symphony of sound and silence woven together in perfect harmony. It wasn't just something I heard, it was something I felt, resonating deep within my soul. It was as if my very essence had always known this music, like a forgotten lullaby now returning home. The sky stretched beyond the limits of human sight, neither day nor night, but something in between, an eternal golden glow, untouched by time. Beneath it, the landscape was unlike anything I had ever seen. Rivers of light flowed through the valleys, their waters glowing with colors beyond earthly comprehension, hues I had no names for, shifting and blending like liquid gemstones. Fields stretched out before me, but these were no ordinary fields. Every blade of grass, every petal of the countless flowers that bloomed, seemed to radiate life. The air itself pulsed with an energy that was more than air, it was spirit, it was love, it was the very breath of God woven into the fabric of existence. And then, I saw them. Radiant beings moved throughout this realm, their very forms emanating peace, wisdom, and unspeakable joy. Some walked along the glowing rivers, others stood beneath great trees whose branches seemed to stretch into infinity. Some of them felt familiar. I couldn't explain how, but I knew them. Not just in a vague way, but in the deepest sense, like they had been a part of my soul's journey long before my earthly life began. I felt no fear, no hesitation. Only belonging. Others were unknown to me, yet somehow, they felt like family. As if we had always been connected, even though we had never met. I turned to Jesus, unable to contain the wonder in my voice. "What is this place?" His eyes sparkled with understanding. "It is what you call heaven, but it is far greater than the words you have for it." He gestured toward the landscape, and in that moment, I understood. This place was not just a destination. It was home. Not home in the way we think of on earth, tied to a house or a country. This was the truest home, the place where all souls belong, where we are fully known, fully loved, and fully whole. Jesus smiled at my realization. "This place is not separate from you," he said gently. "It is always here, beyond what the eyes can see. It exists alongside your world, hidden behind the veil. And when the time is right, you will return." His words sent a shiver through me, not of fear, but of awe. This place was real. More real than the earth, more real than anything I had ever touched or seen in my life. And one day, when my journey was complete, I would come back. A longing filled my heart. "Can I stay?" I whispered. Jesus looked at me with deep love, but also with a quiet certainty. "Not yet." His words carried no force, no command, only truth. I wanted to argue, to plead, to say that I never wanted to leave this place of endless peace. But deep inside, I already knew. My journey was not over. I still had work to do. Jesus extended his hand toward me, and as his fingers touched mine, a rush of warmth flooded through me. Suddenly, the beauty of this realm began to blur, the golden light dimming, the symphony of heaven fading into a distant hum. I felt myself being pulled backward, back toward the world I had left behind, back toward the weight of my earthly existence. Live with purpose. Jesus' voice echoed in my soul as I drifted away. "Tell them what you have seen." Back to earth, forever changed. I gasped as my eyes flew open. The harsh, sterile light of the hospital ceiling filled my vision, and the beeping of machines rang in my ears. My body ached, heavy and weak, but my heart, my soul, felt different. I was back. Tears spilled down my cheeks, though I wasn't sure if they were from sorrow or gratitude. I had been there. I had seen heaven. I had stood before Jesus. And now, I carried a mission. In the days that followed, I barely spoke of what had happened. How could I? How could I put into words something so vast, so beyond human understanding? But then, the dream started. Every night, I would see glimpses of heaven again, the rivers of light, the radiant beings, the golden sky. And every morning, I woke up with an undeniable certainty. I had to tell my story. It wasn't just for me. It was for those who had lost faith, for those who had doubted, for those who had wondered if there was anything beyond this life. I started small, telling my family, then my closest friends. Some listened with wide eyes, some wept, others simply nodded as if they had always known. And then, something even more incredible happened. People began coming to me. Strangers. People I had never met before, yet who somehow knew I had something to share. Some told me of their own experiences, visions, dreams, near-death encounters. Others simply said, "I don't know why, but I felt I needed to talk to you." I began to understand. I was not just meant to see heaven. I was meant to be a witness. A witness to God's mercy. A witness to the reality of the divine. A witness to the truth that we are never alone, that we are deeply loved, and that heaven is not just some distant, faraway place, it is real, and it is waiting for us. A life transformed. I no longer feared death. I no longer questioned my worth or my purpose. Because now, I knew. I was here to love. I was here to serve. I was here to bring heaven to earth through my actions, my words, and my faith. And one day, when my mission was complete, I would return to that golden realm, to the place where music lived in the air, where rivers of light flowed endlessly, where love was not just an emotion but the very essence of existence. And I would see him again. But until then, I would walk forward, carrying the light of that realm within me, sharing the message I had been given. Because someone needed to hear it. Maybe that someone is you. Jesus turned to me with a knowing smile. You still have work to do. His words settled over me like a gentle breeze, carrying both comfort and weight. He spoke with love, with patience, yet there was an unmistakable sense of urgency beneath his tone, not a demand, but an invitation. You may stay, or you may return. For the first time since stepping into this realm, I realized the power of my choice. I could stay. I could remain in this place where love was endless, where joy was not fleeting but eternal. No more pain, no more struggles, no more earthly worries. Or I could go back. Back to a world filled with suffering. Back to a body that ached. Back to the unknown, to the weight of existence. Jesus' eyes held mine, and in them, I saw something profound, hope. Not just for me, but for those I had left behind. Your story is not just for you, he continued. It is a light for those who are searching. A gift for those who have lost their way. A flood of images filled my mind, visions of the people I loved, faces I had yet to meet, strangers in pain, souls longing for meaning. I saw moments of despair, moments where a single word, a single story, could shift the course of a life. Could I be that voice for someone? Could my experience become a bridge for those who doubted, for those who needed to know that they were never alone? I thought of my family, my mother's soft prayers, my father's quiet strength. I thought of my friends, the ones who had always been there for me, even when I didn't understand my own path. And then, I thought of the ones who had no one. The ones who had given up. The ones who felt unseen. The ones who believed they weren't enough. I had once been like them. And if my story, this miraculous, divine experience, could bring even a single person hope, then how could I stay silent? I looked back at Jesus, my heart swelling with love and purpose. I will go back, I said softly, but with conviction. I will share what I have seen. I will tell them. Jesus smiled, and in that moment, I felt something shift. A warmth surrounded me, a light brighter than any sun, and I felt the embrace of something far greater than myself. Then go, he said. And never forget, you are never alone. The descent back to life. The moment I made my choice, everything around me began to change. The golden sky of heaven faded into a swirling mist, the rivers of light dimmed, and I felt myself being drawn away, backward, away from the peace, away from the divine presence. My soul resisted. Even though I had made the choice, a part of me longed to linger in this sacred place just a little longer. But the pull was undeniable, like a gentle yet firm hand guiding me home. Then came the feeling of weight. A crushing pressure surrounded me, my senses reawakening to the density of the physical world. I felt cold. I felt pain. I felt human again. And then, breath. A desperate gasp tore from my lips, and my lungs burned as if they had been restarted. The sound of beeping machines filled my ears. A rush of voices echoed around me. I was back. Awakening to a new life. The first thing I saw when my vision cleared was my mother, her face streaked with tears, her hands clutched together in prayer. My father sat beside her, his usually stoic expression shattered by raw emotion. The doctor, who had been adjusting one of the monitors, froze mid-motion, his eyes widening in shock. A nurse gasped, whispering, "She's awake." I had been gone. They had not expected me to return. But I had. Tears slipped down my face, but not from sadness. From gratitude. From the overwhelming love I had felt, from the miracle of this second chance. I reached for my mother's hand, and when she grasped mine, she let out a sob of relief. "You're back," she whispered, pressing my fingers to her lips. "I had to come back," I murmured, my voice weak but steady. "I have a story to tell. A mission begins." Recovery was slow, but every moment was filled with purpose. I could no longer see heaven, but I felt it. Its presence lingered in my soul, a constant reminder that it was real, that it was waiting, that I had been sent back for a reason. At first, I told only my family. I expected disbelief, but instead, they listened in awe, their eyes filled with wonder. My mother wept, my father held my hand tighter than he ever had before. They knew I was telling the truth. Then, I told my friends. Then, the word spread. And soon, strangers were coming to me. Some simply wanted to hear my story, to know if there was truly something beyond this life. Others shared their own experiences, dreams, visions, moments where they had felt a divine presence but had been too afraid to speak about it. I began to realize, I was not alone. Many people had seen glimpses of the divine, but fear kept them silent. Doubt had made them question themselves. But I had been given this experience to speak. And so, I spoke. I traveled. I shared my story in churches, in small gatherings, on stages where people had come just to listen. And every time, I saw the same thing, eyes widening with recognition, tears slipping down faces, hands reaching out as if grasping onto hope for the first time in years. This was my mission. Not just to tell my story, but to awaken others. To remind them that they were loved. That their lives had purpose. That heaven was real, and God had never left them, not for a single moment. A life transformed. I no longer feared death. Because I had seen what lay beyond. Because I had stood in the presence of Jesus. Because I knew that this life was only the beginning. And so, I walked forward, not just as the woman I had been before, but as someone reborn. With every breath, every step, every word, I carried with me the truth of what I had seen. And if my story could bring even one person back to faith, then my return had been worth it. Because in the end, it was never about me. It was about all of us. And the love that had been waiting for us all along. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air, the quiet hum of machines blending with the hushed whispers of my family. My mother sat beside me, clutching my hand as if she feared letting go would send me away again. My father stood nearby, his usually stoic face softened by something I had never seen before, tears. I had returned. But I was not the same. I was alive in a way I had never been before. The world around me felt different. Colors were more vibrant, as if every hue had been intensified. The soft light filtering through the hospital window didn't just illuminate the room, it felt like it was embracing me. Sounds were sharper, each voice, each breath carrying a weight I had never noticed before. I felt as though my very soul had been awakened, as if I was seeing the world not with my eyes, but with my spirit. And then, my hands. The faint M etched into the lines of my palms, something I had once dismissed, now pulsed with significance. It was more than a crease in my skin. It was a reminder. A calling. A mission. The weight of purpose. As I lay there, regaining my strength, I couldn't ignore the knowing that now resided within me. Every breath I took was a gift. Every moment was intentional. Every interaction was an opportunity. I had seen the truth. I had stood in the presence of Jesus. I had felt the overwhelming love of heaven. And I had been sent back for a reason. But with that realization came a question, what now? How could I possibly return to an ordinary life after experiencing something so extraordinary? How could I wake up, go to work, engage in small talk, pretend as if nothing had changed? The answer was clear, I couldn't. A story to share. At first, I hesitated. How could I explain what had happened? Would people believe me? Would they think I was delusional, that my experience was just a product of trauma? But then, I remembered Jesus' words. Your story is not just for you. I was not given this experience to keep it to myself. I was given it to share, to be a witness to something greater than this world. And so, I started speaking. First, with my family. My mother listened, tears streaming down her face as I described the light, the tunnel, the mark on my hands. My father, a man of few words, simply nodded, his grip on my shoulder firm. My siblings, my friends, they all leaned in, hanging on to every word. Then, word spread. People began reaching out. Some had heard whispers of my experience. Others had their own stories, dreams, visions, encounters with something divine. They had always wondered if what they experienced was real. And I told them, yes. It is real. I have seen it. The more I shared, the more people listened. Not because I was special, but because everyone is searching for something greater, for meaning, for purpose, for a sign that they are not alone. I became a messenger. Not of my own story, but of God's truth. The message meant for you. I share my story not for myself, but for you. Because if you are reading this, it is not by accident. Because if you have ever doubted your worth, your purpose, your place in this world, then this message is for you. Look at your hands. Do you carry the mark too? Perhaps you have never noticed it before. Perhaps it has always been there, hidden in the lines of your palms, waiting for you to understand its meaning. But even if you do not see it, know this. Sparkles, you are loved. More than you can possibly comprehend. More than the limits of human love can express. You are loved with an eternal, unshakable love that existed before you were even born. Sparkles, you are chosen. You were not placed in this world by accident. Your existence is intentional. There is a purpose woven into your life, even in the moments you cannot yet see. Sparkles, you have a mission. Maybe you have felt it before, the pull towards something greater, the sense that you were meant to help, to heal, to guide. That is not your imagination. That is a calling. Do not ignore it. Do not let doubt steal your purpose. Because God is with you. He has always been with you, even in the moments you felt most alone. Even in your pain, in your questions, in your struggles, He has never left. And He is calling you toward the light. Living in the light. I do not claim to have all the answers. I am still human, still learning, still walking this journey. But I know what I have seen. I know the truth that has been imprinted on my soul. And I will spend the rest of my life sharing it, not for my own sake, but for those who need to hear it. For you. So if you are reading this, if something inside you is stirring, if you feel that pull, listen to it. Maybe this is your sign. Maybe this is your moment. To awaken. To believe. To step forward into your purpose. Because this is not just my story. It is ours. And the light is waiting for you,